Hi, I'm Katie, and I'm here today with Rick Williams, CEO of Central Oregon Truck. We're here just to ask him a few questions for our current and potential driving team members out on the road. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Katie.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
Good.
Good.
So, we're asking you a few questions. One of the first questions I was wanting to ask you is if you could describe in your words what Central Oregon Truck is.
Sure. Central Oregon Truck is a company that was built by drivers. I was a former driver. All my original partners were former drivers. And today we're still managed by former drivers. So the company, I think, is very driver friendly. I think we have a culture of care that is extremely different from other trucking companies because we know what it's like to be on the road. We understand the challenges of being on the road. And it's a tough life. So we try to minimize that as best as we can and understand our driving team and make sure that we're serving them appropriately so that they can be successful.
What do you think the culture is here at Central Oregon Truck? I know we're different in a lot of ways, and I think our culture really defines us. How would you describe that to any potential team members and our current guys out there?
I agree. We use it's interesting that you say that we're so different. We use a company to do lots of driver team surveys, and they literally have hundreds and hundreds of trucking companies and survey thousands of driving team members across the country. And they asked us if we thought we were different. And on a scale of 1 to 10, what did we think? And I said we were probably a 7 or 8, and they disagreed. They said we were a 10. We're wholesale different than other trucking companies in the way that we approach trucking, the way that we approach our driving team. So really what the culture is one of a heart of a servant. I feel like our internal staff here has the heart of servants to serve our driving team members, to keep them loaded, to keep them in miles. The biggest thing I know as a driver, I hated sitting around. If I was away from my family, I wanted to roll. So waiting around for loads just doesn't work for me. Layovers don't work for me. If I'm gonna lay over, I wanna be home. So, but one of the most unique things as we kind of developed and changed over the years, I think one of the things I'm most proud of is that our driving team members also have hearts of servants back to our internal staff. So they know that ultimately their performance to our customers is important, and they want to make sure that they perform for the internal staff. The internal staff performs for them, they want to perform for the internal staff. So it's really a teamwork environment and a teamwork culture.
So the next question I was wondering is, what kind of driving team members are we looking for here at Central Oregon Truck?
Safety is obviously my number one concern. We want to make sure that we're putting safe people on the road who really care about safety. We're never going to ask a driving team member to do something that's unsafe or illegal. We're not going to do that. That never happens. So I guess, I want the professional. I want a professional driver. I want someone who cares about our equipment and who cares about the company being profitable, and who cares about themselves being profitable.
Right.
I want a guy who manages himself. So that the kind of guys that I look for are what I would call a ghost.
Right.
They're here, they do their job every day. I don't want to micromanage people. I want them to manage themselves. I just want to give them the tools, the resources, and the knowledge to manage themselves and let them go do what they do best. They're the professional.
What can our current driving team members and any potential guys we might bring on board, what can they expect of us that is different than the industry standard?
Well, first of all, they're gonna expect to be they have a right to expect that they're gonna be treated like a person, not a truck number. We're gonna respect them, and we hope that respect is mutual. They can expect that we are a very process-driven company, so we have to impart the knowledge of our processes on. And basically, what I'm looking for is a franchisee owner, right? He's going to be responsible for his own truck and trailer to make it profitable, using some of our processes that we've actually done over the years, that I've done over the years. So I guess they can expect good equipment, safe equipment. They can expect that we care about their time. They can expect to not have a part-time job because we're going to keep them rolling. I want the loads right there to them. When they're empty, I want the next load to them. They can expect that we're going to hold them accountable and that we expect performance. But how do we do that? Do we do that by getting on the phone with them and complaining or griping at them? No, we're going to do it through remedial trainings, or everything we do is knowledge-based. In fact, one of the resources that we offer here is our driver coach team. They're former very successful drivers who know all the variety of products that we load, and they're here just to help our driving team members who may not have seen a particular load or don't know how to secure it. That's what they're here for. So we really don't want to manage our guys. We want to give them great information, increase knowledge, and then let them do their job. So
thank you. And Rick, can you talk to us a little bit about safety? How do you approach that?
Sure. So safety is our number one concern, without a doubt. What's it mean to be safe? I think you have to have a culture of safety.
Right.
First of all, we have to have safe equipment, and we're not going to run equipment that isn't safe, period. So we have to talk about safety of our driving team member, safety of the motoring public. And you know, one of the things that I tell our safety folks a lot is when we're evaluating a driver and his safety performance, we can't just allow things to be overlooked, because we're putting that driver on the road with your families, with their families, and that's never a phone call I want to make. So in terms of safety, you know, it's an always moving target. There's no silver bullet to remain perfectly safe, but what we have to do is make sure we can look ourselves in the mirror when we get up in the morning and know that we did everything we could do to keep our driving team member and the motoring public safe. How do we do that? First and foremost, we want to hire the right people who want to drive and be safe.
That needs to be a personal value for them.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
a big difference.
It is a huge difference. And you know, we're out here to make money, but we want to be safe first.
Right.
And it's very possible. We have a lot of driving team members that make a lot of great money, but they're very safe. But people make mistakes. People are learning, and as they learn, we still have to approach it. Okay, you've had an incident or a small accident. What do we do? Again, it goes back to our driver coaches and our trainings. We want our driver coaches to evaluate what went on, understand the root cause, make sure our driving team member understands it, and we're going to provide remedial training, whether it's simulation training, whether it's video training, whether we get back in a truck. We've evaluated guys, taking them on an additional drive test. Again, even guys who've been with us for 15 years, we've taken back out on the road in a drive test, because sometimes you get complacent and you develop a bad habit. So we're gonna look at that piece of it. But before that, we're looking at understanding that a driver could be building up to an accident. So we have lots of safety devices on the truck, and we're going to manage that driver's performance based on hard braking, lane departure, roll stability, speed. So when we see these reports come in, you know, if a guy has one or two here and there, it's not a problem. But when we start seeing a consistency to it, we're gonna call and we're gonna talk to the driving team member and say, look, this is what we're seeing, and we want to help you. We don't want you to end up in an accident. An accident's no good for anybody. Driving team member doesn't want it on his record, doesn't want the downtime associated with an accident or an incident, and we certainly don't want any injuries of our driving team, the motoring public. We don't want any equipment damage, cargo damage. So those are some of the things that we do, and that's an expectation that our driving team members should have from us, is that when we see habits forming, that we will get in contact with them and discuss it. Not in a negative way, in a positive way, so that they can improve and stay out of trouble.
Right. We really want to coach them to success in every aspect,
Absolutely.
whether it's safety, any aspect of them being out there. We want them, like you said earlier, we want a ghost driver that's safe and productive.
That's right. And there's I always say there's a line in the sand. And we're going to do everything we can do to coach that driver across that line in the sand and make sure that he's performing well. I want every driver to make top pay. So if you're out there, why not? Why not be the best?
And Rick, what's Central Oregon Truck's expectations of our driving team members?
Well, again, first and foremost, we want them to be safe drivers. Secondly, we want them to be productive and want to work. We also want dependable guys. We need to have dependency on one another. So, production is on the internal staff. We make sure that the internal staff understands that they need to create production for our driving team members. But it's our driving team members' job and role to execute that productivity.
Right.
So I want them to be dependable so that we can maintain good relationships with our customers, and they know that when we're booking freight ahead of our driving team member, that they're going to be there and they're going to execute the production. So being dependable and being on time is kind of one and the same. The other thing is, I expect our drivers to use supreme care or take supreme care of our equipment. It's how we all get paid. And so I expect them to keep their trucks clean and make sure they're inspecting them and make sure they're safe at all times. And then lastly, to be courteous and polite, not with just our shippers, but between ourselves, each other. We have to be respectful of one another, and I think the biggest thing is we have to communicate with one another. We can't improve as a company without great communications with our driving team members, and we need solid feedback from them.
Yes.
And I don't want them to just be going down the road and not providing us feedback, because then we're not a team.
Right. And Rick, my last question is, how do we manage our driving team members?
So the objective is to not manage them. The objective is that we impart enough knowledge on them and they understand our processes and procedures and they buy into our process and procedures to where they manage themselves. I don't want to manage an adult, male or female. I want them to go do their job. I just want to make sure that they got the resources to do it. So, but can they expect to be managed if they're not doing or not performing up to our level of commitment? Yes. And how do we do that? More information, more knowledge. It's not a beating. It's not a yelling match over a phone. It's simply hey, this is the problem. This is where we can see you can improve. And we're going to give you this information to help you with that. And we do a lot of benchmarking with our drivers in terms of, because of our performance pay package, there's a lot of money on the table based on how a driving team member performs. So we want them to really understand what they're leaving on the table, if any, and do they want to leave that on the table? Maybe it's not as important for them, and that's okay. That's a choice. But so I don't want to manage guys. I want the best of companies to come here to Central Oregon Track and I want them to see and feel the difference. I've got driving team members that have worked for me since I was 20 years old, and it wasn't always easy for those guys, but today they enjoy it here, and they're left alone. They run their truck, they make great money, and they don't really have the oversight that most companies provide or give. So you can be left alone here, and that's the drivers we want, the guys who can be left alone.
The ghost drivers.
The ghosts. We love ghosts.
Yeah, we really do. Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.